Welcome back. I'm very pleased to say we're joined once again by Jose Cardenas, a man who has served in senior positions in the United States government, notably at the U.S. Department of State, the National Security Council, and also the U.S. Agency for International Development, where he was, among other things, the acting assistant administrator for Latin America and the Caribbean. Jose, welcome. It's always good to have you, though I must say this is kind of Black Monday around here, and for that reason, I'm very pleased to have a chance to talk with you, but a little saddened, I must say. You must feel the same.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. It's always a pleasure to be here. I think Senator Rubio captured it quite nicely when he referred to it as Capitulation Day. Not only, of course, the rather disgusting raising of the Cuban flag in Washington, but also, of course, the whole Iran situation as well. I think that it is a truly a sad sight when how much, because we all remember, of course, that the fall of the Berlin Wall, the collapse of the Soviet Union, and all of how meaningful that was, and who we are as a country, and how we were able to remain steadfast against the spread of communism for 60, 70 years. And today, to see all of that just simply swept away by this administration is basically meaningless. To hoist that flag here in Washington under a brutal dictatorship that has not reformed or abated in its anti-Americanism for 55 years.
Jose, you follow very closely what's happening in Cuba and understand, I think, better than anybody probably, that there really hasn't been any indication so far that it's moderating its conduct, its domestic policies, let alone its foreign policies, as a result of us having, essentially, as you say, thrown over the side decades of policies of the United States government aimed at containing this cancer.
Exactly right, Frank. We got nothing. And in fact, just the other day, one of the Cuban spies that was a part of all this supposedly intense negotiation between the Obama administration and the Castro regime was quoted in the international press. He continues to travel around the world crowing that we did not give up one iota for the normalization of relations, for the diplomatic recognition of the Castro regime. There are innumerable apologists for the regime who are trying to convince people that there are economic opportunities now in Cuba, but and that there's political relaxation going on. But the harsh reality is that there has been no meaningful, significant change in Cuba. Any economic changes that Raul Castro has implemented are occurring on the margins of the Cuban economy. It's still fully controlled by the regime. The idea that there has been any political relaxation in Cuba is nonsense.
Yeah, talk about the ladies in white as a case in point. Who are they and what's been happening to them?
Yes, in a number of Cuban towns and cities, every Sunday, these are wives of political prisoners and those in solidarity with them, dress in white and simply walk to their local church to attend Mass. So this apparently is intolerable to the Castro regime, and every march is heavily monitored and controlled by state security, and that is a good day. On the bad days, the ladies, the bus arrives with the goon squads to rough them up and shove them into the bus and take them all to the local jail. And so this is a spectacle. This occurs almost every Sunday in Cuba. There has been no let up in the repression of Cuban dissidents and human rights activists. In fact, Frank, I would say that there has been an increase in the repression because now the regime feels that it has a respite to exact punishment against the dissidents. The regime sees this as an opportunity to to basically decapitate the opposition now that they have American recognition and liberalization of the embargo. This is their time to fully consolidate control.
Yeah, this is essentially, there are now no costs to them for doing so. And as we were talking about with Claudio Rosette earlier in the program with respect to Iran, the same calculation, you can bet, is taking hold there, and probably, as Gordon Chang has indicated, in a lot of other places besides Iran and Cuba. Let me ask you about one other piece of all of this normalization. Jose Cardenas. And again, Jose was the acting assistant U.S. administrator for Latin America and the Caribbean in the U.S. Agency for International Development, among other senior U.S. government positions he held a while back. And critical to all of this was the U.S. government's willingness to capitulate on the demand by Cuba that it be removed from the state sponsor of terrorism list. Jose, as this is going on, the negotiations between one of the terrorist groups that it has long sponsored, namely the FARC in Colombia, their negotiations with the government there seem to be breaking down. Is it in fact the case, as a serious observer of the hemisphere, that the Cubans have stopped supporting the FARC, or for that matter, other terrorists in our region? Or is this really just another example of capitulation day, as it were?
Exactly, Frank. It is basically part of the administration's see no evil approach to international affairs. You cannot. There is no daylight between the Castro regime and the FARC, and it remains so. The peace negotiations that you refer to are actually occurring in Havana. That is the depth of the confidence that the FARC places in the Castro regime. The peace negotiations between the Colombian government and the FARC have turned into an unmitigated disaster for the government of Juan Manuel Santos. It was a mistake to do what he did, to try to send his negotiators to Havana to attempt to negotiate supposedly peace in Colombia after 50 years. It is the same animal. The FARC and the Castro regime are inveterately dedicated to anti-Americanism, and the more room that we allow them, it will only redound to the utter harm to U.S. interests in the region and the globe.
Yeah, and that will include agencies like Hezbollah and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps and Hamas that have also benefited from both Cuban support and that, of course, of some of their sponsors, notably Iran. In the closing moments we have, Jose, where do you think these negotiations between the FARC and the Colombian government are going to go from here?
Well, President Santos said last week that he will give the talks 4 more months to come to an end. These talks have been going on for more than 2 years so far, and he has paid dearly politically in Colombia for this meandering process that he began. So he is giving it 4 months. We'll have to see whether he mans up to that pledge and forces an agreement with the FARC, or else he again succumbs to further appeasement.
And kicks the count down the road, as the Obama administration has done with such devastating effect on this Iran deal. Jose, we have to leave it at that, I'm afraid. Thank you very much for joining us, as always. I hope you'll come back to us again very soon, marking this capitulation day on several fronts. It's deeply appreciated. I hope the rest of you will come back to us again tomorrow. Same time, same station. Until then, this is Frank Gaffney. Thanks for listening.